My internet is being a nightmare, so if I drop out at any point, I apologise. Just hang on and we'll try and pick it back up.
Episode loading. Play. You are listening to Freshly Squeezed.
Got to try with lack of vocabulary to portray that in noises and grunts and booms and bashes and bows, and the drummer must hate me.
Orange.
Hello my friends, welcome to another squeeze of the finest new music. This is Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast. I'm Jim, and over the next few minutes I'm going to guide you through some of my favourite new bands and favourite new tunes. If new music is your thing, make sure you have subscribed, because there is a brand new episode just like this every single week. And not only that, there's a load of brilliant ones in the back catalogue to check out already. Maybe a great place to discover your next favourite band. So, today on the podcast, we are featuring the electric Manchester band Uno Mas.
This ain't your birthright. Go take it.
The dead exciting Liverpool-based lot Sukis.
I can't speak to no one.
And Manchester-based, but Huddersfield-born Michael Gallagher.
'Cause I've got plastic dreams. It's all I've ever wanted when all that I need.
In fact, a load of top tunes, and there's a bit of a focus on the northwest of England today, apart from with our very first band on Freshly Squeezed, because for that, we need to head to France. Oh no, hang on, stop, sorry. Not France. We need to head to Scotland. Oh no, hang on, sorry. Not Scotland. It is France. Oh, and it's Oh, fuck it, this is too difficult. We're just going to get them on Zoom. Yes and maybe. On Zoom on Freshly Squeezed. Are you there? Gigi and Callum, aka Yes and Maybe. Welcome to Freshly Squeezed.
Hey, nice meeting you, man.
As a band, I was reading through your stuff and I really like your mission statement as a band. You want to bring back the golden era of noughties indie, which is music to my ears because like that is one of the greatest eras of music in my opinion. What is it for you about that era that you love?
Everything, man. It's, the music was more fun. It was colorful. It was something that, I remember the iPod ads, for example. That was something I was obsessed with when I was a kid. We were digging music on MySpace, Tumblr. This period was really nice and fun. I don't know. How was it in the UK, Callum?
Definitely when I was growing up, there's so many great bands at that time, so much amazing music, so many bands that we love, like you're talking the Stroke, MGMT, Arctic Monkeys, and we felt there's maybe a lack of that now, and it kind of led to me and Gigi maybe about a few years ago, we just started really making music that we love, and it resulted in this band, Yes and Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, we were listening to this music all the time. I mean, it's maybe because we were teenagers at this time when we discovered this music, but we were listening to this music all the time, and I was like, why we don't do this type of music instead of doing stupid pop or something that we don't really like or enjoy,
It's interesting to hear you reference, the iTunes adverts, but also some of the bands you name checked there in that. And it's never occurred to me before chatting at this point, but actually the identity of noughties indie was kind of like, it was music that was cool, but at the same time it was music that you can dance to, which I'm not sure was something that necessarily had happened before or has really happened since.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, in our album, we have obviously music you can dance on, probably. You have some other influences, like Callum is a big Beatles fan, so we are going also on this side of the music, but I think it's still fun and colorful, and it's still linked to the 2000s vibe. And you call it how do you call it? Naughty? What did you say?
Naughties.
Yeah, I call it also indie. I like indie sleaze. I find it very interesting.
So as a duo, you're kind of unlikely bedfellows geographically. I'm sure people can hear that you're not from the same part of the world.
Yeah.
Callum, you're from Glasgow. Gigi, you're from
Yes.
France. How did it come about that you kind of formed as a band?
Callum, I'll let you explain since you are the first texting.
He never lets it down, but I messaged him years, like it's 8 to 10 years ago, something like that, about on SoundCloud, and I just loved his production at that time. There was no strings attached to anything. It was just I loved his music, and I asked if he wanted to work together.
Yeah.
And we kind of became unlikely friends, and back and forth between Scotland and France over the years, just as friends.
And trust me, I was the worst producer back then. I don't know why you liked it.
No, it was definitely over a few years. We just became pals, and we were meeting between Paris and Glasgow. And in the last few years, that's kind of when it solidified, and we really had the same vision for this band, and everything just kind of clicked from there. It kind of resulted within about 2 weeks. We had written about 5 of the singles off the album.
Wow.
So yeah.
And are you still writing between those locations? Do you write kind of virtually? Do you work together virtually? Or do you try and get together in studios and together in kind of creative spaces to kind of make your music now?
No, we hate seeing each other, so it's really easy. We just use WhatsApp, and I send him a production, he send me back vocals, or sometimes he send a production with some vocals and I reproduce it, and yeah, it depends. But we really like working in our personal spaces because we have our habits. I was a producer, he was a singer producer, so we were used to work alone. We were used to do our own stuff. So I think, yeah, this was the easiest way for us to communicate and to work.
It sounds like that kind of Anglo-French relationship is working at the moment. And I looked at a map because I'm a geek, and the midpoint between Glasgow and France, as you say, you were formed between Glasgow and France. The exact midpoint is Milton Keynes, which I'm not sure is the ideal kind of like musical iconic location to be associated with, but just thought I'd flag that one for you. I was interested because when I think of French music, I think of bands like Phoenix, which have that cool kind of indie feel to it. When I think of Glasgow music, I think of kind of spiky indie rock and that kind of thing. Are you guys mixing inspirations from your hometowns and your locations into your tunes as much as the noughties indie vibe? Do you feel like where you are is influencing your music as well in some aspect?
Absolutely. I think so, but G might not agree. But
I agree too. Yeah,
G kind of finishes the productions and on everything, and I think there's definitely that French vibe on the production, and it definitely has influenced me. Obviously, being in Glasgow, going to gigs, and I just think that it's kind of resulted in this kind of really nice balance between the both of them, like a really nice kind of indie rock feel, but also with really nice production that's quite polished as well.
Yeah.
So 100% feel it's influenced us where we are.
Yeah, and on my side, it was definitely Phoenix who influenced me on the production side, and even some electronic acts like Justice or Breakbot, they were kind of in my head when I was mixing some of the songs. But yeah, it's definitely part of it.
Boys, absolute pleasure to talk to you on Freshly Squeezed. Like I say, I've not heard your stuff before, really liking what you're doing, particularly the tune God Isn't Real, which is the one we're going to play today on the podcast, which should come with a health warning, because once you hear it and it gets in your head, it's not going anywhere. It's kind of stuck in there, going round and round. But cheers for the tunes, and thanks very much for joining me on Freshly Squeezed.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Everybody let you down, they treat you like a fool. Scream, what am I gonna do when I'm under rule? And everybody let you down, you know it to be true. Seems every single day I feel like my God isn't real. Isn't real. Isn't real. My God isn't real. My God isn't real. Conversations that the people don't wanna have.
Right, that should be firmly lodged in your brain now. The brand new tune from Yes and Maybe, it is a total earworm. Love it. But like I said, this episode of Freshly Squeezed, there's definitely a Northwest flavour to it, and the first offering from that part of the world comes from one of the most exciting young bands in the region right now. They're called Sukis, and Tig from the band is on the pod. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thank you. How are you?
Very good. I'm not going to talk about your band name because everyone talks about band names. It's a bit of a cliche. I want to talk about your name because Tig, that's just cool. Could you have been anything other than a rock star with a name like that?
I don't know, maybe like a really fancy dentist or something, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a random place to take it.
That is quite specific.
Was that the
Yeah.
name you were given, or is that kind of like something you've taken on as a stage name?
Yeah, no, it's the name that I was given. So the original name is Tig, which I think it's an Irish name. The original spelling is Tadhg, and I think it translates to poet
Okay.
in Irish. But basically, I was born in Manchester, and my dad, I think, was the one who came up with the name because he comes from a very long, it's an Irish family, like thousands of us. Do you know what I mean? And so I had the name Tadhg for about, I think, 3 days. And then in the hospital, everyone was mispronouncing my name. So they thought, well, let's split the difference and let's write out how it's spelled.
Nice. Absolutely love it. So, as you said, you're from Manchester. A lot of the band are from Hertfordshire, I think, but you've been in Liverpool as a collective for a while now. So is Liverpool the place that you call home musically?
Yeah, I mean, definitely now. I mean, it's a weird one for me as well because I was born in Manchester and then I was raised in Bedfordshire. And yeah, another part of the band is from Hertfordshire, but basically we moved up to Liverpool and then we just met everyone else up in Liverpool. It's one of those things with Sukis as well, where it doesn't really like matter where we're from because so much of how we've got to the position where we are now is through stuff like online and stuff. So it is just picking up people where we can find them, you know. But Liverpool is definitely my home because all of my favorite music is from here, and now I live here.
It's interesting you say it doesn't matter where you come from, but also that some of your favourite bands come from Liverpool, because musically, I kind of think you fit the sound of the city. Do you kind of sense that you do have those elements in your music that are the same elements that you kind of associate with those big classic Merseybeat bands that come from Liverpool?
Oh, 100%. I can't think of anyone who listens to any music from Liverpool and can't find themselves in parts of it. For me, I love the Beatles, but that's obviously a cliche. But for me, my favorite music that has come out of Liverpool is looking at the effect of the Beatles and almost the city almost rejecting it to a certain extent. Bands like Echo and the Bunnymen, you can hear the influence of almost them pushing against that sound.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
And there's some amazing bands like Shack and Space, and that's when you're looking more towards the 90s and 2000s. And my mum, she moved up to Liverpool from Somerset when she was younger for the music, you know. So even though my mum's not from Liverpool, like she feels really like, you know, like an honorary Scouser almost. So she introduced me to all of that amazing music. It's an amazing place, Liverpool, because I said this in an interview before. It's not just like Merseybeat, it's not just bands, but it's an amazing place for even things like hip hop, funk, jazz, songwriters, country. Like with somewhere like Liverpool, you know, with the effect that it has like on culture, it's no surprise that it's a forward-thinking and a pivotal place for musicians and creatives alike to just go and express their art.
Definitely. With the new tune you've got, To No One, you can hear all those influences. Obviously, you can hear the influence from the city, but also you cite a couple of other, maybe more unexpected influences on this track. You name check Strokes, which maybe isn't that surprising, but also Marvin Gaye. They're not two necessarily obvious musical bedfellows, those two. How do they come together on this tune?
Do you know what? I'll give you a fun little fact, actually. On a Strokes EP, the Strokes actually covered Marvin Gaye. They covered Mercy, Mercy Me. And so it seems like Julian Casablancas from the Strokes has already made that connection.
Wow, okay.
Well, look, it's as simple as this, which is that when I was growing up, I was raised on two diets, right? One diet was bands and indie and Arctic Monkeys and Catfish and the Bottlemen and just the sound of the 2010s and the 2000s on the indie scene and the effect on England. And then the other diet that I was raised on, which was jazz and soul and funk and more the artistry of what it is to be like a musician. So for me, when I say the influence of Marvin Gaye, I'm talking about, say, like a record like What's Going On. what Marvin Gaye does in his vocal technique when you got these weird sort of like long continued synth parts that just kind of go throughout the tune, and almost just the sort of cohesion of the bass and the drums, and how whatever Marvin Gaye is saying, it's coupled with a lovely counter melody within the music as well. So when I viewed recording To No One, and to be honest, all the music that we've been working on now within the Sukis, like I have a massive influence from people like Marvin Gaye, because I'm thinking about how he's using his voice and how he's basically getting across the message of music, and the power of music, and the power of how you can get a message across. But if you put like a really like danceable beat behind it, the message gets across even more effectively.
Something to listen out for when we play the track in just a moment. In terms of this tune, what's the plan here? Is this, as it stands, something that's standalone? Is it the start of EP number 3, maybe? Is there something bigger? I'm talking maybe albums coming down the tracks.
I mean, that's the type of question I'm not too sure if I can answer right
Okay.
now. Look, this song alone, it's a response to we haven't been around for 2 years, so this is our like entrance back, and it's saying hello, we're here again. Whether it is an EP, whether it is an album, whether it is standalone, to me, it's not too important right now. It's just knocking on the door and saying hello.
Just enjoy the tune for what it is. Really looking forward to hearing whatever happens next. Like I say, it feels like Sukis are on the cusp of something. Part of that is down to some impressive numbers you've got against you at the moment, by the way. 25 million streams on Spotify. Do you ever kind of stop and think about how many people exactly that is? 25 million people. It's enough to fill Wembley Stadium 277 times over.
Wow. Well, when you say it like that, that's quite intense. You know what? I have thought about how many people it is, and I'd like to believe that a lot of the people who are fans of the Sukis and people who really, really resonate with our music are people very similar to me. People who, unless you're very, very in the know, I feel like the times when you discover the Sukis is doing things like using technology, like, you listen to Arctic Monkeys, you use Spotify, you go on the radio, and then you hear Becker and you go, wow, this tune's sick. And I'd like to believe that there's people obviously in cities, and there's people who's obviously seen us on the live shows and found us on TikTok and stuff. But ultimately, the majority of the people who have discovered the Sukis are people who are avid music listeners and kind of discovered it on their own back or through their really cool friends that put them onto a band.
Nice one, mate. Your passion is infectious. Looking forward to hearing what comes next. We're going to give a spin to your new tune, To No One, now on Freshly Squeezed. I think you should set it up. You should intro it.
This is the first Sukis tune after 2 years. It's called To No One. It is about having anxiety and not feeling like you can chat to people, but that's okay because we can dance to it anyway.
So we wake up in a cold sweat and the buzz is going off, that's our parents. I feel fine, not a problem. Is it me or sertraline? Can't speak to no one.
Sukis 2 years away, and now they're back with a bang. Their brand new tune, To No One. Next on Freshly Squeezed, the new music podcast, though, we're heading down the motorway from Liverpool and we're going to Manchester, and a band whose new tune, Unfazed, has already been picked up by Radio 1, and it's the second of their tunes to have got that accolade in quick succession. I'm talking about Uno Mas, and I'm talking to Ollie from the band. He's on Freshly Squeezed. How you doing, sir?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good. First off, I've got to say, new tune, Unfazed. You're second to be featured on Radio 1. That must be dead weird and just mega at the same time to hear your music played on Radio 1.
Yeah, I make the joke all the time. I'm just as surprised as everyone else. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. It's just something a little bit different with how we go about our attitude towards writing our songs has kind of changed slightly. Nothing major, nothing drastic. I think recently we've been experiencing different things and places and stuff, and I feel like it's really helped us, home in on our craft a bit. And I think that's the reason why, one after another, I guess, at the minute, which it feels great. It's really good to know that people on all the big stations, respect your music, and that feels really good.
It's interesting you say that you think that there's been some changes because I clocked that as well, and I want to talk about that in a minute. But first, like that kind of recognition, getting on the Radio 1 airwaves, does it feel like it's getting serious for Uno Mas now? Does it feel like it's getting real?
Yeah, I mean, we've been together for a while, like probably about 5 years. It's always been increasing and getting better and better every year. And well, yeah, something does feel different. And like I say, I can't really pinpoint what it is, and maybe we'll try and dive into that in a moment. But yeah, something feels different. It feels like something's really happening.
So the new tune Unfazed, it's a big tune. It's got this kind of driving energy behind it. It feels like it's going to be absolutely awesome when you play it live. Has it had its live debut yet?
So yeah, we played in Birmingham. I don't know where I got that from. We played in Newcastle. I went the wrong way down the country.
Same
We played
distance,
in
wrong direction.
Yeah, yeah. Went down instead of up. Yeah, so we played in Newcastle, so we played it there. And to be fair, it was a festival that we were the only band on from out of town, and people had come to watch us. So that felt great because obviously it's obviously 150 miles away, and the name's spreading, which feels good on its own. And then people singing our songs, and then we played Unfazed, and people were absolutely loving it. So yeah, it went down really well, which is all we can ask for, really.
How does a tune like that start out? Because it's hard to imagine that because it's got this great big bass line and it's got these fuzzy guitars. It's hard to imagine it kind of starting life on a little acoustic and building from there. So, what are the building blocks of tunes like that?
It is funny you say that actually, because I only write on an acoustic. So it really starts out as like an idea, and I can kind of hear it, see it in my head, should I say. And then I've got to try with lack of vocabulary to portray that to the other boys in noises and grunts and booms and bashes and battles. And the drummer must hate me by now, but yeah, it seemed it always goes from this little voice note I'd record on my phone with an acoustic in my bedroom or something, in the bathroom probably because it's good reverb. And then, yeah, it kind of bring it to the boys and we have a certain idea. And I have a pretty good idea of where it's going to go and what I want it to sound like. So we kind of hone that in. We go to the studio with our strongest songs and yeah, we just really throw everything at it. We've been working with a guy called Andy Gannon, who's a good producer. He's a good friend of ours as well. And he just allows us to like really throw everything at it because he's like you can always take it out. I feel like such a brilliant way to work, and obviously being in the studio for a certain amount of time, we don't have weeks and months and days to go over it and over it. Do you find yourself sometimes almost rushing to the finish line? But I think like at the minute we're really not, and we're really just taking our time and like just throwing all of our ideas and sounds and different genres and different experiences in there, and I think that's why it's really working.
Well, let's talk about what we mentioned before that there does feel like there's been a gear shift in Uno Mas and your music over the last 6 months, maybe. I think it's been a progression. So I think we've talked about this before, how lockdown was a change for the band and it enabled you to take a step back and kind of look at what you were doing creatively. That's 4 or 5 years ago now. And it's been a slow progression since then to this point. You're a band that I think, as a load of musicians, you've never lacked confidence, but it just feels like this new stuff to me has got a real swagger about it, has got a real confidence. What do you think this shift's been?
I don't know, it's hard to pinpoint, but I do believe, like you say, for the last couple of records, there's a similar, I think we really know now, like, I think, like you say, there's been a progression in the way we write and in the way I think we act towards each other, and we all had a sit down a year or two ago and we just really wanted to get out of each other. So instead of each other saying, no, don't do that, or no, don't do that, just be like, well, then why do you want to do that? Or what's the process behind thinking of that? Because a lot of the time as 4 lads, you're just throwing something in the mix and you're not really explaining to each other what you feel and where you've got it from. And it might not appeal to the same person, the next person. So I think diving into that between the 4 of us, obviously we're all getting slightly older and I would hope a little bit wiser, but can't promise anything. But I feel like that really does benefit us as a band and as a sound, because like like you say, it just allows you to give other people a bit more, everyone just a bit of a time to create and the reasoning behind it. And I feel like that's where the confidence comes from, because we've all got so much confidence in each other. And I think that's really like conveying over that the new songs.
Before you go, Ollie, I need to ask you one final question. I asked this to gondolas on the podcast a couple of weeks back, and they found it really tough to answer. So I'm thinking about doing it as a regular thing because I quite like it. So you can take anyone from musical history and put them into Uno Mas. Any legendary artist, dead or alive, it doesn't matter. The catch is that legendary artist has to replace one of the existing members in the band.
Wow.
Who's in and who's out?
But that gets rid of all the frontmen because I'm not going anywhere. They'll have to drag me out, kicking and screaming. That is a hell of a question. Now, you know what? I'll take one for the team. Go and get Serge from Kasabian, let him have a play with the band. I'll sit and have a beer and enjoy it.
Fair enough. Well played. Well played. The politician's answer.
That was clever. Blame myself so that nobody else gives me a shoe in the group chat.
Ollie, great to speak to you as always. Really liking the new tune. Cheers for coming on Freshly Squeezed.
Thanks for having us, mate. Nice one.
Stop your engines, my senses are so unfazed. I'm not here just to stay. Take it or leave it, my feelings are never gonna change, 'cause I'm winning this race. 'Cause world war breakdown, I'll be on my way now. Everybody's going insane. Cutthroat lazy, send me going crazy. Tell me, are you feeling okay? This ain't your birthright. Go take it, you only get one life. So live it, this ain't no easy living. Take control, head starts spinning. Break the mold, yeah, birthright. Go take it, this ain't yours.
Banger, innit? Unfazed from Uno Mas. Really like that. Links to that along with all the other artists on today's podcast in the episode description, as always, if you want to hear more. So we're going to stay in Manchester for the next act on the podcast, and we're going to hear from a Gallagher in Manchester, and not just any Gallagher either. Michael Gallagher, Huddersfield born, but now plying his trade in the city of Gallagher's. You'll hear from him shortly and find out why he is a social media trendsetter. But first, let's give a squeeze to his brand new tune, Plastic Dreams.
It's been this way for as long as you've known. They took the magic and left us this hellhole. 5 times a week, but you'll get away with 4. Behind the lens, go and sell yourself some. People don't wanna sit and hear you moan. They want Oasis covers, not songs of your own. By the end of the week, you'll need 50 videos. They'll pick the favorite if they know how the song goes. I can't get enough, but it's taking my pride. It's all getting too much, and it's not for the first time. Sometimes feels like there's no place to hide. Go get a grip, son, it's part of the ride. It's hard to see straight when there's light in your eyes. It's hard to see straight, but man, I try.
It was only a matter of time before we got one of the Gallaghers on the show, and it's the best one of those Gallaghers, Michael Gallagher. Welcome to Freshly Squeezed. Can I get you a brew? What are you having?
Yeah, a cup of tea, please, yeah.
Nice. Do you want milk, sugar? How'd you have it?
Just a dash of milk, not too much.
Big question. Do you want a biscuit with it? And what biscuit do you want? I've got everything you could dream of, so what's the goat when it comes to biscuits?
See, my Achilles heel is biscuits, and I'm a fan of quite a lot. I think my favourite one is the red and gold Tonics caramel wafer. That's what I usually would treat myself to.
Ah, so see, I had a mate, so I don't think they're biscuits. I think that's kind of like, I had a mate and his granddad used to call them tabnabs.
Tabnabs, I've never heard that one before.
It's like somewhere between a biscuit and a chocolate bar. You'd get a tabnab,
yeah.
So like a club biscuit or a trio or that kind of thing.
Yeah, an orange club's a nice biscuit. That's probably my second choice, an orange club.
I'd love to carry on talking about biscuits. It's one of my favourite topics, but we should probably move on to something a little bit more poignant, and that is your brand new tune, Plastic Dreams. Now, first off, do we need to blame you for the recent trend of AI-generated like action figures that people are making of themselves? Because the new tune, Plastic Dreams, the artwork for it is you as a 1980s style action figure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably just a massive coincidence, but some things are a little bit amiss there, isn't it? Because we kind of we're like, oh, we'll do something that will like stand out from the crowd with this action figure that we make for the artwork, and then literally 3 days before it's released, everyone's making action figures. So maybe we did set the trend. Maybe we booked the trend. Yeah.
I think you can 100% take credit for it. So the new tune, I really like it. Called Plastic Dreams, like I said. And in terms of a theme for it, it feels like it's a bit of a kickback, this one, a tune about kind of the expectations that are put onto modern artists and modern musicians. Was it something that's been inspired by your journey through the industry?
Yeah, I think so. So last year I set myself a challenge of writing a song every week. So like a song a week. And I kind of I was looking for something new to write about, and it's probably not something I'd normally like look to write, but it was a bit more of like just as a joke. And my manager was asking me all the time to keep making TikToks and be more present on social media and stuff like that. That's which every artist probably can relate to in like the modern world of how people consume things. So it was kind of, it was a bit of a kickback to that, and it was obviously just started out as a bit of a joke, and then as the tune went on, we went to go into the studio, and I sent like 20 songs over to the producer Alex. This one kept sticking out, and we decided to try and do something with it. But I'd never actually finished writing the last half of the song until we were actually in the studio, because I'd never thought that I would kind of finish it. It was more just like a kind of throwaway song that like I'd made, and was, that's the song I wrote about not liking to make TikToks, So yeah, it's definitely kind of kicked back to what's expected of artists in a modern age, really, I think.
Writing a tune a week, that's a fairly ambitious thing to do. So I assume you've now got 52-ish songs in the bank. How many of them do you think are actually going to see the light of day?
I think in the end, I just fell short. I got 48, I think. But which is, it's not bad going. I'd say 48 at the start of the year. But I'd say that maybe 40 of them are definitely worth releasing. So it's more of a case of, fingers crossed, hopefully I can get them all out one day, and maybe look to do like a big body of work or an album or something like that. But it's kind of choosing wisely at the minute, whilst we haven't got that luxury at the minute.
There's a line in Plastic Dreams that caught my attention, and it's, they want Oasis covers, not your own.
Yeah.
I was interested in that particularly because is that a reference to you being another Gallagher? Has that name, as far as you're concerned, has it kind of put some expectations on who you are as a performer and what people can expect? I'm sure there are positives to it, but are there also negatives as well?
Yeah, maybe subliminally. I've never really tried to think too much about it, but I obviously always get the comparison. There's no Liam, because I've called Gallagher and I look pretty similar. I've got the eyebrows to match and stuff like that. So, but yeah, originally the lyric, the original lyric was they want Oasis covers or songs by the Stones. But then I didn't really see much, because they were bands I listened to growing up. So that's kind of why I think I picked them. But then I was like, well, that doesn't really work, because I don't see many people doing like painted black on TikTok or stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I changed the lyrics slightly.
With this new music, maybe it's the stuff you've written before, maybe it's just the new tune. How do you think it stacks up against what you were doing maybe 12 months ago? Do you listen to it and go, oh yeah, I can see that I've progressed as a songwriter, the sound's different? How do you hear it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the material that I'm writing now, and I think obviously the fact I was mentioned earlier about writing a song a week, that kind of really helped develop my songwriting quite a lot. And the music that I'm sitting on now, ready to release, is definitely my best work. And I feel like the sound's evolving the more I've worked with the producer. I've been working with Alex Quinn at Kempston Street. So it feels like it's constantly evolving, and the stuff, like this is definitely my best song that I've released to date, in my opinion.
Well, I'm looking forward to a tidal wave of music that's going to come over the next year. Now you've got 40 in the bag, ready to go. Keep us posted on how you're doing, Michael. Good luck with the new tune, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Still can't get enough, and it's taking my pride. It's all getting too much, and it's not for the first time. Sometimes feels like there's no place to hide. Go get a grip, son, and read through the lines. It's hard to see straight when there's light in your eyes. It's hard to see straight, but man, I try. The more that I try, I realize I've already got what I wanted to find. 'Cause I've got plastic dreams. It's all I've ever wanted when
Loving that new one from Michael Gallagher, going from strength to strength as a songwriter at the moment. Find the links to his stuff, as well as Uno Mass's stuff, as well as Sukis stuff, as well as Yes and Maybe stuff, all in the podcast description. Just follow the links to find out more, as well as finding out more from, of course, Spin Class, the brilliant band who came up with the Freshly Squeezed theme tune that you're listening to now in the background. I'm ruining and talking all over. You can find this tune, the full version of that, and more in the podcast description. Thank you very much for your continued efforts to grow Freshly Squeezed. I asked you last week if you could please just tell a mate about the podcast who loves new music, and genuinely, we can see it working. We can see kind of our audience going up and up, and more people listening to the show, more people getting in touch. It is brilliant, so keep up the good work. Loving it. But most importantly, cheers for your ears, and I'll see you next time.
Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast, was devised, produced and hosted by Jim Salveson. Sound design and additional production by Ant McKinley. The music, Blue Blazer, is written and produced by Spin Class. Stop.